All right, guys, let's talk about cars. Buying a car is going to be something you will probably do in a relatively short amount of time. Now, I have two friends. I always like to start with the story. I've had two friends straight out of high school buy brand new cars. Okay, they both had jobs. They were not good jobs, but they both had jobs. And with enough interest rates, someone will finance you. There's a lot of shady dealers, and they will finance you. So one of them got Scion XB or whatever the boxy one was, brand new, and the other one got a jacked up, really nice GMC truck. Okay, neither one of these kids could afford this thing. I mean, theoretically, they could. They made enough money per month to afford these things, but they couldn't move out of their parents' house. If anything happened, they couldn't make the payment. And so what happens? Well, they wasted a lot of money on the down payment. In both cases, medical bills came up. They were unable to make their car payment, and both of them got repoed. Now, one of the guys, the guy with the truck, got lucky, and that was the end of it. He lost a ton of money, had no vehicle to drive, and that was the end of it. But the guy with the Scion, they repoed the Scion, and he still had to pay. Why do you still have to pay? Because when they repo your car, if they don't sell it for enough to cover what you owe on it, legally they can come after you. They can dock your pay. They can go get in your bank account. It really depends on how much they want to pursue you. But they might as well pursue you because they've already made a lot of money off you. Why not make a lot more money off you? So do not finance a car straight out of high school or while you're in high school. It is a bad decision. We're going to talk about a lot of ways, some deals, some things to stay away from, some things to look for. So first thing, what should you do? You should try to get a relative's car, maybe a family member, anybody who will give you a car or sell you a car for a really nice price where you know that it's been maintained. That is your best bet. Okay? So that doesn't work for everybody. We all don't have enough relatives who are in a position to give us a reduced price car. So let's talk about what everybody else has to do. First thing, you need to stay away from the used car lot and the new car lots. Because here is what's going to happen when you go to one of these places. Talk about that 350Z out there. I mean, my boss he is freaking out about this deal I'm giving you. This is bottom line. This is the price. They won't even give me this price. Yeah, that price is it's a little high, and I'm more interested in the Camry than the 350Z. Right here, I'm finding that car online for a lot cheaper. We need to come off that a little bit. You can shop around, but I'm telling you, you're not going to find a better price than that. And let me tell you something. There's so many places that scam you out there. They're always trying to sell you the undercoating. Speaking of undercoating, I know those 350Zs are known for rusting, so that's something we should probably talk about. Brenda, do we offer half-price undercoatings? You're going to love that, half-price undercoatings. Comes with a free coffee mug. Yeah, I'm definitely not interested in the undercoating. Seriously, though, that price, we need to get that down. Maybe we can make some sort of deal. Well, let's stop talking about the price of the thing, and let's talk about how much you can afford per month. So what do you think you can afford? What would you want to get it down to if we get it down the lowest as possible? I don't even feel like you hear what I say. I think you're just waiting for me to finish so you can say your next thing. I'm telling you, man, you're going to miss out on this deal. Someone's going to swoop in right from under you and take it. We could probably get that number. We could probably get that price under $400 a month. If we do a 10-year loan, that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, I'm gonna need some time to think about it. I'll head out and I'll give you a call later today, and we can talk about it some more. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go talk to my boss, see if we can sweeten the deal. I doubt it. I'll be right back real quick, and we'll see if we can sign some papers. All right? Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, we got a good deal. So we can get you the same price I quoted you earlier, no additional charges, and the undercoating. Don't even worry about the undercoating. It's really not necessary. Okay, those Nissans are pretty good cars. Can you take me with you when you leave, please? Now, trust me, that's a situation you want to avoid. Now, problems with used car lots. So the problem with used car lots is you're going to pay a lot more. Let's go look at some examples here. Okay, so here's some 2002 Toyota Camrys. Probably a pretty good, reliable car. You know, you're not going to be able to beat on this thing and it, you know, be reliable for 5 years. But these are fairly known for being extremely reliable. They can go well beyond 200,000 miles if they're properly maintained. So this is obviously a safe choice in a vehicle, but it's good nonetheless. Now we got prices as low as 4,000, as high as 8,000 for a car that is 18 years old. Okay, this car is older than probably everybody listening to this video right now. So this is an old, reliable car. And these used dealers want $3,800, which you're sounding like that's not a bad deal. But here's the kicker. If you don't have $3,800 cash, they're going to finance for you for a ridiculously high percentage because you don't have good credit. So this $3,800 car is probably going to end up costing you closer to $5,000 when it's all said and done. This is not a $5,000 car. Sure, it's reliable, but it's not a $5,000 car. Here is a 2002 Toyota Camry on Craigslist. I don't recommend Craigslist. I recommend Facebook Marketplace for buying used car. And remember, there's a lot of safety concerns with dealing with individuals that you don't have to deal with at a dealership, but it's almost worth it, especially if you can get someone to go with you, and always meet in a public place. So there's it's got a lot of miles on it, 300,000, but it did get a rebuilt motor. It says a new used motor. That means it was rebuilt with only 80,000 miles installed last year. So that tells me that this car has a lot of highway mileage and it's got an 80,000 mile motor. Now there's no way to prove that motor only has 80,000 miles. So, you know, let's say you get this car for $1,800. Okay, you go meet the guy in a public place. You come to a conclusion, $1,800, and then you meet back up to get the car. So what should you look for in this car? Well, it's Oklahoma. Make sure the air conditioner works. Because if the air conditioner doesn't work, you need to pay a lot less for this car. Closer to $1,000 instead of $2,000. But say the air conditioner works, make sure the engine sounds good. Okay, it's not clicking, it's not rattling, it's not, you know, barely staying. Make sure the idle's not erratic. Another thing you can do is just make sure the transmission shifts well. Put it into reverse, make sure there's no clunks or shudders or anything weird. Put it into drive, take it for a test drive, and make sure the transmission is shifting well. If those things are true, you're probably going to be okay with the car. But let's say you do pay more than $1,800 for a car. Let's say you're putting out like $4,000 for a car. Is there anything you can do to make sure this car is in good shape? And the answer is yes, but it is going to cost you some money. How much money? Let's find out. So what do you need to do? Well, you're going to have to find someone who's selling the car on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, or even one of these dealers, which I don't recommend because, as we can see, the cars are almost twice as expensive, maybe even more, because I guarantee you can get this guy to come down based on the mileage alone. But you're going to have to find a car mechanic, and they can actually scan the motor and look for engine wear. Now, you might think it's kind of weird that they can use a computer to look for mechanical wear in the engine, but they can. So let's take a look. Here's a... Is there any way I could have the seller meet me there and y'all guys could do like an engine scan on it or something like that?
Like check the code?
It doesn't have any check engine codes, but could y'all do like a more in-depth analysis on the computer to see if it's like using excess fuel or anything like that?
I mean, we can do a $50 check where we kind of go through it and see, and then tell you what we find, if anything.
Is that?
But you'd have to leave it with us, and we work it in throughout the day when we have time.
Okay, so they would have to leave it there for a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we're not too busy right now, so if you left it in the morning, then we could look at it sometime tomorrow. And then.
Okay, hey, I appreciate it.
All right, no problem.
All right, bye.
Bye.
So there you have it, $50 to get it checked out. Now, that's not going to guarantee everything, but like I said, they can do a more in-depth scan on the motor than like if you have a little handheld device, or that probably that even AutoZone can do, and it's $50. Now, if you're not paying that much for the car, it may not be worth the trouble for the seller, but if you're paying over a couple grand for a car, just do that little bit of thing. Have that dealership check it out, because there could be something majorly wrong with that motor. It might have, very little compression in one of the pistons, anything like that. So find a reputable shop, give them a call, and then have the seller meet you there. That's also a good public place to do your business at as well. All right, let's talk about why you shouldn't buy. Let's go back to my idea. Let's talk about why you shouldn't buy a new car. Here's why you shouldn't buy a new car. It is a poor financial investment. Now, you've probably heard this thing. You've probably heard the same thing 100 times over, that buying a new car is the worst financial mistake you can buy. And it's true for the most part. Yes, you do get a reliable car, but not all new cars are going to be reliable past 5 years, or even up to 5 years. You can sometimes get a limit too. But the reason you shouldn't do this is because it loses most of its value. Now, there's very few cars that keep their value. Like a Mini Cooper keeps its value decent well, a Tesla does, and Jeeps do. Besides that, everything loses an insane amount of value over the first year, and then 3 years later, it will lose almost half its value. So these new cars are such a poor investment. Say you buy a $30,000 car. You are going to lose $15,000 in 3 years, just up in smoke. Now, if you'd have bought a 3-year-old one, you could have saved about half that money. Now, the way they get you is they offer you this easy financing and stuff like that. So it's easy to walk in there and walk out with the car, even though you just spent 30 grand. I want you to think about that. Remember, we talked about thinking long term. It doesn't matter if that 30 grand is only costing you $500 a month. That is 30 grand that you are using to buy a car that you'll probably get bored with in 5 years and get rid of, or even if you do keep it a long time, still cost you a 15 grand that you wouldn't have had to pay had you got a really, really nice used car. So I want you to think about that. What could I have done with that 15 grand? Well, maybe I could put a down payment on a house. The truth is, you should not be looking at a new car until you have every debt paid off and you have a house, assuming you live in a place where buying a house is even feasible, obviously. So if you have a house and have no other debt, that's the only time you should really even be thinking about buying a new car. And even then, I want you to think about what's the long-term effects of this. If I would have invested that money, we'll get into a video about that later, okay? But it's a poor, poor decision to buy a new car. Now, what should you buy in a car? Should you buy a luxury car? Luxury cars, they look cool. Maybe you'll catch the eye of someone in a luxury car. But the truth is, cars do not increase your social standing. You cannot buy your way with a vehicle into a higher social standing. You can rent it for a little bit. Maybe you're the cool guy that showed up in the Lamborghini, but after that, no one's going to care. So you cannot buy your way with a car into a higher social class. So do not buy a luxury brand thinking that this is going to make you be perceived as a better person. Trust me, no one's going to care. Another problem with luxury brands are they're not actually better cars than non-luxury brands. Now, back in Grandpa's day, Grandpa loves to talk about how amazing Cadillacs are, right? Guess what? The Cadillacs he drove back in the day have nothing to do with the Cadillacs they drive now. The Cadillacs that exist now are simply Chevys with a bunch of bullcrap technology thrown in there, and that technology first off, it's going to go out of date quickly, because that's how technology works. And it's just going to overcomplicate the car and make more things to go wrong, make it less reliable. So luxury cars, they used to have completely different chassis, completely different suspensions, completely different motors, and completely different interiors. Now, basically what you're getting is a little bit cleaner interior and a bunch of technology that you're never going to use, and the price is double or triple. And we're talking about depreciation of new cars, even used cars. Those things depreciate fast. You should get a simple car. Why a simple car? Because simple cars have less to break. Now, I'm not suggesting a Geo Metro. Okay, this is just here for an example. Okay, but this car compared to this car probably has maybe a tenth of the complexity. Therefore, some fixes you might even be able to do on your own if you're handy. But if you're not handy, they're going to be a heck of a lot cheaper to get worked on by a local mechanic, because a local mechanic will know how to work on one of these cars. They will not know how to fix some sort of computer code in one of these cars. So what is a simple car? What makes a good, reliable, simple car? Well, no turbo. Okay, a lot of cars that come out with turbos. Stay away from the turbos. It sounds awesome, but your reliable daily driver should not have a turbo, because turbos wear the engines out prematurely, and you're not going to get as much life out of those. So if you buy a used turbo, you're rolling the dice. Stay away from four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. Those things are added complications, more things to break, more things to go wrong. And we live in Oklahoma. The truth is you don't need four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive on your daily driver. Also, last thing, stay away from luxury cars. There's too much technology, too much to go wrong. Now, some of you might be saying, Mr. Cox, you're not a car guy. You don't understand that it's an expression of your personality or something stupid like that. And I actually do like cars. And here's what I say to people that are car guys. Fresh out of high school, you got a decent job or you don't have a decent job, just buy that reliable car. Don't think with your emotions. Buy that reliable car. And then you can save up money and buy an older sports car or an older Brodozer or something like that. So if you want a big 4x4 truck, save up money, pay cash for an older one. Think of it as more of a toy than as a reliable means of transportation, okay? Just because all your buddies at work got big Brodozers doesn't mean you need to go into huge financial debt to buy one, okay? Drive that reliable car and then get an old one that's a toy. They'll probably be jealous if you get an old like K10 or something weird like that. They'll probably end up liking that more than their newer trucks. And it's the same with sports cars. Okay, say I like sports cars. Okay, get that reliable car when you're young, and then save up and buy that sports car. Try to find an old S2000 or something like that as a toy, something you can work on a little bit. Don't try to make your emotional car purchase your daily driver. That's generally going to lead to either a car that simply doesn't function because it's too small, or a truck that's wasting gas and rots out tires and stuff like that. Last thing I want to talk about is car scams. Buying off Craigslist and Facebook is the best option you can make. Actually, the best option you make is trying to get like a relative's reliable used car. But the best option you can make is buying from an individual. Once again, if you're worried about the car or you're paying more money, call those mechanics, have them do a full scan. You heard the guy I called on the phone who's never going to see me because I don't actually want to buy that Camry. $50 to get the car scan, and you could call multiple places because that guy did not seem like he knew what I was talking about with the more in-depth scan. But he's probably just a salesman, so he may not have that knowledge. So it's okay to call around and try to find someone you think's the best. But they had really good reviews, so that's probably the place I would take it to. So scams. So how do automobile scams work? Well, if you see a deal that's too good to be true on Craigslist or Facebook, it's possible it's a scam. Facebook is a little bit less scammy because generally that person has a profile, so it's more attached to their name than Craigslist, which is more anonymous. So anyone who is selling you a car but can't meet you in person, it's a scam. Like, they're going to have a convincing story. I promise you they're going to have a convincing story. It's a scam. I sell and buy. I've sold and bought a couple things off Craigslist in the past, and generally for every one legit person I get, it'll be about 10 robots who, are based out of Texas, but are deployed or something like that. It's all BS. It's a scam. If they cannot meet you in person, it's a scam. If they do not have a clean green title, it's also a scam. Well, so how do you know if they have a clean green title? Well, they'll say they have a clean title. And then when they show it to you, there's two things you want to check. Make sure the VIN number is the same. Where are VIN numbers found? They're generally found right here at the bottom of the door, the bottom of the windshield. They also are generally found on the door and some places under the hood. There's a lot of hidden VIN numbers, but generally if you check right here, you're in good shape. And make sure the VIN number matches the one on the green title. And the second thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure the title is clean. So it'll say if it has liens or not. You just read through it. It'll say liens. If there's nothing there, it's means he doesn't owe anything. Because if you buy a car that's owed money on, it's going to cause a problem later for you. So remember that this is your money. So when you're dealing with people on Craigslist or at a used car lot because you made a bad decision, remember it's your money. Don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be rude, but tell them how it's going to be. You're going to meet me at this car thing, and we're going to have the motor checked out, or I'm going to check that title and that VIN number before I take this thing. And also, last thing on the title, it has to be signed by them and notarized. Most people know that, but it has to be signed by them and notarized. If they give you the title and they didn't sign and notarize it, then you're going to have to, it's going to be a huge problem for you to go back and get that later, okay? So on the title, make sure VIN number matches the car you're buying. Make sure it doesn't have any liens on it, and make sure it is signed by the seller, including the notary. And you can also check the guy's ID if you're not 100% sure. But in general, that's all you need to buy the car. All right, y'all guys take it easy, and I'll see you Friday for Zoom.